The alien princess believed human warriors were just tales until she came face to face with one. Princess Elira had grown up on the bridge of the starship Lumeris, watching the stars pass like sparks across a dark sky. From a young age, she had been taught about the humans, small, fragile creatures from a tiny blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. Her tutors had spoken of them in hushed tones, calling them clever, resourceful, and sometimes reckless, but never strong. To most aliens, humans were stories, tales used to entertain children or to scare soldiers. Warriors like her ancestors had laughed at the idea of a human ever surviving in the fields of real battle. Elira never questioned these lessons. She was a princess of the Zerithian Alliance, a coalition of species that had ruled the outer sectors for centuries. Her life was filled with diplomacy, protocol, and constant preparation for threats from neighboring empires. Humans seemed small, insignificant, almost amusing to her. When she was told that a small group of humans would be assigned to guard the new Alliance station at Silvaris, she smiled politely but did not feel concern. She imagined them standing in neat formation, mostly ornamental, holding weapons that might look intimidating but could never harm true warriors. The station was larger than she had expected. Silvaris was not just a research hub. It was a trading post, a military outpost, and a social center rolled into one. Its wide halls hummed with the quiet energy of countless species moving between labs, docking bays, and council chambers. Elira's shuttle landed in the central bay, gliding down the polished metal ramp that reflected the dim starlight from outside. As her boots touched the floor, she felt the weight of being a visitor in a place she did not fully understand. Waiting for her were the station commanders, tall, angular beings whose pale skin shimmered under the artificial lights. They bowed deeply when she approached, their long fingers folded in customary respect. Elira returned the gesture with a practiced nod, scanning the area as her eyes settled on the human contingent. There were only 6 of them, all wearing the standard protective armor of human soldiers. Their uniforms were plain, dark, and simple compared to the elaborate designs of Zerithian warriors. One of the humans caught her attention immediately. He was taller than the others, with short dark hair and a quiet expression. His eyes were steady, watching everything around him without haste. Something about him was different from the rest, though she could not say exactly what. Perhaps it was the calm in his posture, or the way he held himself as if he belonged anywhere and everywhere at the same time. She would later learn his name was Luke Carter, though at the moment she simply observed him with mild curiosity. The station commander introduced each human soldier formally. "These are the humans assigned to assist with station security," he said, his voice echoing slightly in the high-ceilinged room. "Their species has proven intelligent, adaptable, and resourceful." He smiled faintly, and Elira noticed the hesitation in his words. Some respect, some doubt. That had always been the way Zerithians spoke of humans, admiration tinged with disbelief. Elira nodded politely and stepped forward. She extended her hand toward Luke, expecting him to give the simple human greeting of touch or nod. He shook her hand firmly, yet gently, his gaze meeting hers with calm confidence. She felt a strange twinge of unease. It was subtle, like a shadow brushing across her thoughts. She dismissed it quickly. She was the princess, and humans were harmless. The first few hours passed in a blur of tour, introductions, and inspections. Elira walked through the corridors, observing laboratories filled with alien scientists, docking bays where massive ships rested like sleeping beasts, and barracks where soldiers trained in zero-gravity exercises. She glanced at the human soldiers from time to time, noticing their movements. They were precise, economical, efficient. Nothing flashy, nothing meant to impress, yet every action seemed purposeful. Elira's guides pointed out the defensive systems of the station. Energy shields, automated turrets, and surveillance networks that could detect threats from light years away. The humans were allowed to inspect some of the lower decks, but mostly they remained in their designated posts. She noticed Luke slipping quietly into a corner of the observation deck, looking out over the docking bay as if he were memorizing every detail. Later, in the central dining hall, Alira found herself seated among her council and station leaders. The humans joined at the end of the table, eating simply while aliens around them sampled exotic foods and spiced drinks. Luke ate slowly, methodically, never spilling a drop, never reacting to the strange textures or tastes. Alira watched him for a moment and caught herself thinking about his endurance. She shook her head, surprised at her own thoughts. Humans were supposed to be delicate. They were supposed to crumble under pressure, but something about him suggested otherwise. That night, Alira could not sleep. She lay in her chamber aboard the station, staring at the ceiling through the translucent panels that showed the stars beyond. Her mind kept returning to the humans, their small size, their quiet movements, their steady eyes. She tried to convince herself that it was merely curiosity, but a part of her felt a strange anticipation. The next morning, alarms echoed through the station. Alira rushed to the observation deck, where commanders and guards scrambled to respond. A pirate vessel had slipped past the outer sensor grid, moving faster than anticipated. The station's automated defenses began firing, but the pirates were skilled, evading attacks and targeting structural points. Alira froze at the sight of the first explosion on the outer hull. She had never expected a threat to arrive so quickly, and the chaos made her stomach tighten. Humans reacted immediately. Luke and his team moved through the corridors with fluid speed, checking doors, assisting injured personnel, and engaging the pirates who had managed to board sections of the station. Alira watched in disbelief as Luke lifted a heavy panel from the wall, using it as both shield and weapon. He struck with precise force, knocking a pirate across the room without hesitation. His movements were confident, controlled, and brutally effective. She could not look away. Every strike, every decision, every calm glance toward his team contradicted the stories she had been told. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not myths. Humans were alive with power she had never imagined, a power not of size or armor, but of will and endurance. Alira followed Luke's team through the hallways as they secured sections of the station. Her guides tried to keep her away from the front lines, but she insisted on observing. She felt the heat of battle not from any fear for herself, but from awe at what she was seeing. Each human moved as if the chaos around them were a natural part of life, not an anomaly. They anticipated attacks, protected civilians, and struck with a precision that defied her understanding. For the first time, Alira began to question her education. The scholars and teachers who had filled her childhood with tales of human weakness seemed distant, almost foolish. She had always believed humans were clever but limited, survivors of a small world who could not match the scale of galactic power. Yet here was Luke, showing her a level of skill, courage, and endurance that dwarfed even her elite Zerithian guards. Hours passed and the attack began to subside. The pirates, surprised by the efficiency of the station's defenders and the humans' unexpected skill, retreated in disarray. The station sustained damage, but critical systems remained intact. Alira looked around at the aftermath. Scorched panels, alarmed personnel, and the humans standing quietly among them, unshaken, almost casual in the midst of ruin. She approached Luke quietly, not wanting to disturb him but feeling an irresistible need to understand. He looked at her calm, composed, and something in his eyes suggested he had seen more chaos than she could imagine and had survived it all. "You fought well," she said finally, her voice almost a whisper. It sounded strange even to her, a mix of respect and disbelief. Luke nodded once. "We do what we must to survive. It is not about skill or legend. It is about endurance and focus." Alira nodded slowly, taking in his words. She realized then that humans were not defined by size or armor or by the stories others told of them. They were defined by their will, their ability to endure, and their willingness to face danger head-on, no matter the cost. As night fell again over Silvara Station, Alira stood at the observation deck, watching the stars. She thought about what she had seen, the humans she had underestimated, and the quiet force that Luke represented. She felt a mix of fear and excitement, the knowledge that the galaxy's understanding of humans might be wrong, and that she was about to learn the truth firsthand. This was only the beginning, and she would never see humans the same way again. The morning after the attack, Alira walked through the station's lower decks. The corridors were still littered with debris, scorched panels, and the faint smell of burned metal. She noticed the alien engineers repairing damaged doors and walls, their movements careful and precise. Yet her attention kept returning to the humans. They moved quietly among the chaos, checking every corner, every hatch, every access point, as if nothing had surprised them. Luke Carter led the small human team, issuing short, clear instructions. His words were few, but every human seemed to understand perfectly. They moved with efficiency, clearing debris, carrying injured personnel, and inspecting weak points in the station's defenses. Alira watched him lift a heavy support beam without a second thought and wedge it into a doorway to block access. It was not just strength she noticed. It was calmness, control, and quick thinking. She followed them silently for hours, asking questions quietly. "Why do you do that?" she asked at one point, as Luke carried an unconscious engineer through a narrow corridor. "Because it needs to be done," he replied simply. "We do not stop to think if it is easy or safe. We do what must be done, and then we move to the next task." Alira considered his words. They were simple, but they held weight. She had grown up in a world of rules, etiquette, and strategy, where soldiers often hesitated or debated before acting. Humans acted, and their actions carried results. She had never seen anything like it. Later, as she walked through the maintenance bay, an alarm sounded. Red lights flashed, and the hum of the station's power shifted. A small group of pirates had returned, smaller than before, but clearly aiming for a quick strike. Alira froze at the sight of the first boarding ramp opening, expecting chaos. The aliens around her panicked slightly, shouting orders and trying to organize defense. Luke and his team were already moving. Without hesitation, they split into pairs, covering every angle of the bay. Alira watched as Luke grabbed a long metal pipe, using it like a staff. He struck one pirate who had slipped through the initial barriers, knocking him back without losing his balance. She felt a pang of fear and awe at the same time. Humans were not supposed to be able to fight like this. They were supposed to retreat, hide, or call for reinforcements. But Luke moved like a predator, precise, quick, and almost untouchable. The pirates were bigger than the humans. Their claws were sharp, their bodies strong, and they moved with the confidence of seasoned fighters. Yet Luke and the humans met each attack calmly. Every punch, every block, every step was calculated. Alira could see the momentary pauses before each human reacted. Those were not hesitations, she realized. They were assessments, understanding the threat, then acting decisively. She ducked behind a crate as a pirate swung a heavy arm toward her. Luke was already there, intercepting, his movements so fast that it seemed almost impossible. He pushed the pirate back and grabbed Alira's arm, pulling her to safety. "Stay behind me," he said calmly, not looking at her, his eyes focused entirely on the fight. Alira's heart raced. She had never been this close to danger. The humans were not just surviving, they were controlling it. She watched as a smaller human, a young woman named Claire, tossed a device that emitted a bright flash, blinding two pirates. She ran forward while they were distracted, striking with a small but powerful weapon. It was simple, not elegant but effective. The aliens around her were impressed, murmuring in disbelief. Alira realized that the humans' weapons were nothing compared to alien technology, yet they used them with a skill that seemed natural, almost instinctive. Luke turned and saw a pirate charging at Alira. In one smooth motion, he grabbed a metal chain from above, swung it like a whip, and knocked the pirate off balance. Alira had to step back to avoid being hit by the pirate's falling body. She had never imagined a human could do this. It was as if every story she had heard about humans being weak, fragile, or delicate was a lie. As the fight continued, she noticed something else. The humans did not panic. Their faces did not show fear. Even when a pirate struck hard enough to make one stumble, they recovered immediately. There was a strange rhythm to their movements, a flow that seemed almost like dancing, yet deadly. Alira could not take her eyes off them. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the pirates retreated again. They had not been defeated completely, but the humans' precision had forced them to withdraw. Alira walked among the aftermath, observing the humans as they tended to the injured and helped repair damaged systems. Luke stood quietly, checking the remaining doors and exits, his calm presence commanding attention without a word. "How do you do that?" Alira asked him quietly as they walked through a corridor filled with smoke and dust. "How do you stay so calm, so unshaken?" "We do not think about it," he said simply. "We focus on what must be done. Fear only slows you. We use it, then act anyway. It is what keeps us alive." Alira considered his words deeply. Fear was not absent. It was used, controlled, and turned into action. She had never heard such a thing from her own guards, who often argued, hesitated, or fled when overwhelmed. Humans faced danger differently. It was not recklessness. It was discipline in its purest form. Later, in a quiet corner of the station, Alira saw Luke helping a young alien soldier to his feet. The soldier's leg was injured, and he struggled to move. Luke lifted him effortlessly, carrying him to a safe area. She noticed how careful he was, not just with the injured soldier but with the environment. Nothing was wasted, nothing was unnecessary, yet every action had power behind it. Alira began to understand that humans were not just strong in body, they were strong in mind and spirit. They adapted quickly, thought clearly under pressure, and survived in situations where other species would fail. She could not help but feel a mix of admiration and unease. If humans were capable of this under attack, what else could they do? What had Xerithian scholars missed in their stories? That evening, after the alarms had quieted, Alira walked to the observation deck. The stars shone brightly, untouched by the chaos below. Luke and his team were gathered near the central console, quietly checking systems, repairing minor damage and preparing for any possible threat. She watched them, her mind racing. Humans were no longer stories, no longer myths to her. They were living proof of something stronger than legend. She approached Luke again, hesitant this time. You were amazing today," she said. How do humans survive against creatures so much stronger?" He looked at her, his dark eyes steady. "We survive because we must." Survival is not about size or strength. It is about determination, focus, and refusing to give up. It is about facing what comes and moving forward, no matter the cost. Alira nodded slowly. She could feel a shift inside her. Everything she had believed about humans was changing. She had thought them stories, myths to amuse children or scare soldiers. Now she saw them as something else entirely, a force of life, clever, dangerous, and unyielding. The next day, the station began full repairs. Alira continued to follow the humans, asking questions, observing, learning. She noticed their routines, how they trained even in small spaces, how they prepared for attacks, how they stayed alert without showing exhaustion. They slept lightly, ate simply, and worked tirelessly. There was no pride or arrogance in their actions, only focus and resilience. Alira began to speak more openly with Luke. She asked him about Earth, about his history, about what made humans so different. He spoke of survival, of living on a planet where every day could be a fight, where danger was constant and adaptation was necessary. He spoke of teamwork, of trusting others completely, and of enduring pain without letting it control you. The princess listened, fascinated. She realized that humans were not only strong in ways she could see, they were strong in ways she could not measure. Their strength was invisible, born of experience, challenge, and the will to survive against impossible odds. As the day ended, Alira returned to her chambers. She felt excitement and fear mingled together. The humans had changed something in her. They had shown her that everything she had learned about them was incomplete, that the galaxy had underestimated them, and that she had underestimated them herself. From that moment, she knew one thing. She would never see humans the same way again. She also knew that the lessons she had learned today were only the beginning. The real test of human strength was yet to come, and when it arrived, she would be there to witness it firsthand. The humans had arrived as quiet guardians, small and underestimated. Now Alira saw them as something else entirely, living proof that survival, courage, and endurance were forces stronger than any legend. She did not know how far this would go, or what the galaxy would face when humans were fully revealed, but she felt a spark of understanding. She felt respect, awe, and a deep curiosity that would not let her rest. The stars outside the observation deck twinkled silently, as if waiting, and somewhere in the silence, Alira realized that humans were no longer stories. They were reality. The day started quietly at Silvara's station, but Alira could feel tension in the air. Even after the previous attacks, the station was not safe. Sensors showed strange readings near one of the outer docks. She walked along the corridors, observing the repairs and maintenance, while Luke and his team moved quietly ahead, checking doors and consoles. She noticed how naturally they worked together. Every movement, every glance, every step had a purpose. They were calm, confident, and aware of danger at all times. As Alira followed Luke through a narrow maintenance corridor, the alarms suddenly blared. Red lights flashed, echoing in the metal halls. The station shook slightly as the outer shields were hit again. Alira's heart raced. She had been here before, but now it felt different. She had grown curious, even respectful of humans, but this was the first time she felt fear for herself. She instinctively glanced at Luke, who moved forward without hesitation, his eyes scanning every angle, every shadow. "Stay close," Luke said quietly. "We need to secure this corridor. Follow my lead." Alira nodded, her hands gripping the strap of her bag. She was not used to being in danger, but something about Luke's calmness made her feel safer. They moved quickly through the corridor, ducking under damaged panels and climbing over fallen equipment. The smell of smoke and burned metal filled her nose. Somewhere ahead, the sounds of combat rang out. Shouts, crashing, the metallic clang of weapons striking walls. Suddenly, a group of pirates appeared from a side hatch. They were bigger than any human she had ever seen, with sharp claws and teeth designed for tearing through armor. The aliens around her froze for a moment, unsure how to react. Luke did not hesitate. He grabbed a heavy pipe from the wall and swung it at the nearest pirate, striking with perfect timing. The pirate stumbled backward, stunned, while another pirate lunged at him from the side. Alira gasped, stepping back instinctively. Luke twisted, blocking the attack with the pipe, and kicked the pirate hard, sending it crashing into the wall. She watched in disbelief. He moved with speed and precision, his body perfectly balanced, never panicking. The humans beside him fought in the same way, calculated, controlled, and effective. As more pirates poured into the corridor, Alira realized they were trapped. There was no easy way out. The corridor was narrow, filled with debris, and every side passage seemed blocked. Luke glanced at her, his eyes steady. "Stay behind me," he said again. "Follow my movements. Don't run, don't hesitate." Alira did as she was told, keeping her head low and her feet moving. She could hear the pirates closing in, their claws scraping against the metal floor. She felt her heart pounding, fear pressing against her chest. Yet at the same time, she felt a strange sense of awe. Humans were not just fighting, they were controlling the chaos. Every strike, every movement, every decision was deliberate. They were small, yes, but every ounce of their strength and focus made them deadly. Luke swung at another pirate, striking it in the jaw, and then pushed a heavy crate toward the others to block their path. Alira saw Claire move quickly to the side, using a small handheld device to emit a bright flash that blinded two attackers. She was amazed at how humans worked as a team. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. Every human seemed to know exactly what to do, even in the face of overwhelming odds. A pirate lunged at Alira suddenly, faster than she could react. She froze for a split second, but Luke was already there. He grabbed her arm and yanked her out of the way, using his body as a shield. She stumbled but did not fall, and for the first time, she truly realized how much humans relied on their instincts, their training, and their willpower. "You can move faster," Luke said calmly as they ducked behind a support beam. "Watch their movement, anticipate and act before they reach you." Alira tried to follow his instructions, her body tense, her mind racing. She noticed how Luke did not just fight, he analyzed. He watched the pirates' angles, their speed, their weaknesses. He reacted to the unexpected, adapted immediately, and never panicked. It was unlike anything she had seen among alien warriors, who often relied on strength or technology rather than instinct and intelligence. More pirates appeared from another hatch, and the humans split naturally to intercept them. Alira saw Luke grab a loose cable from the ceiling and swing it like a whip, tripping two pirates at once. Then he dropped it and grabbed a small energy rifle, firing with deadly accuracy. The pirates stumbled, surprised at the human speed and skill. Alira's mind raced to understand it all. These humans were not fragile, not delicate, not weak. They were a force of nature, disciplined, relentless, and fearless. One pirate jumped directly at Alira, its claws extended. She froze, unable to move in time. Luke reacted instantly, throwing himself in front of her. He caught the pirate's arm with one hand and struck its chest with the other, sending it sprawling across the floor. Alira's heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She had never been this close to real combat, and yet she was not afraid of Luke. She trusted him completely. As they moved through the corridor, the fight continued. Debris fell from the ceiling, panels sparked, and alarms blared. Alira saw the humans using everything around them as tools and weapons: pipes, panels, loose cables, even broken chairs. Every strike was effective, every move purposeful. She could not take her eyes off them. She realized that humans had something alien in their own way: the ability to survive, to adapt, and to fight against impossible odds without hesitation. At one point, Luke saw a pirate aiming a heavy weapon at Alira from across the corridor. Without thinking, he grabbed a fallen metal beam, swung it like a lever, and knocked the weapon aside. The pirate lost balance, and another human struck it from behind, ending the threat. Alira could hardly believe what she had seen. A human had saved her without even pausing to think, combining intelligence, strength, and courage in a single, fluid motion. After minutes that felt like hours, the humans managed to push the pirates back to a side hatch. The aliens were forced to retreat, but not before leaving a trail of chaos behind. Alira walked through the corridor, her eyes wide, taking in the scene. Burned panels, scattered tools, injured personnel, but the humans were unharmed, standing quietly as if nothing had happened. Luke looked at her, calm and composed, and for the first time Alira felt something shift inside her. You were incredible," she said softly. I never knew humans could do this." Luke shook his head. "This is not about being incredible, it is about surviving. You adapt, you act, you do not let fear control you. That is all." Alira thought about his words. They were simple, but she understood them deeply now. Survival was not about weapons or armor, not about size or strength. It was about determination, focus, and refusing to give up. Humans survived because they had to, because they were made to endure. She followed Luke and his team as they checked the remaining corridors, making sure no pirates had slipped through. She noticed how naturally the humans worked together, communicating with small gestures, brief words, and shared understanding. There was no wasted motion, no confusion, no hesitation. It was precise, deadly, and beautiful in a strange way. As the day ended, Alira returned to her chambers, exhausted but unable to rest. She replayed the fight over and over in her mind, studying every movement, every decision, every strike. She realized that humans were not just survivors. They were warriors in their own right, shaped by a world where strength was measured not by size but by endurance, intelligence, and willpower. For the first time, she questioned everything she had learned about humans. She had been taught that they were myths, stories for children, clever but weak. Now she knew the truth. Humans were real, humans were dangerous, humans were extraordinary, and she had seen it all up close. That night, Alira could not sleep. She stared at the stars outside her observation window, thinking about the humans she had witnessed today. She thought about Luke, calm, strong, and fearless, and the others who had fought alongside him with perfect coordination. She realized that her galaxy had been wrong about humans, and she had underestimated them herself. Somewhere deep inside, a spark of respect and awe had been lit. Alira knew that the humans' story was only beginning, and that the galaxy had yet to see what they could truly do. She also knew that she wanted to learn more to see how far their strength and courage could go. The pirates had returned, thinking the humans were weak. They had been wrong. Alira understood that now. Humans were no longer stories or myths. They were reality, a reality more powerful and unexpected than she had ever imagined. She felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The galaxy was full of dangers, and humans were only just beginning to show their place among them. She knew that when the next test came, she would be right there, watching, learning, and perhaps understanding the true power of humanity for the first time. For Alira, nothing would ever be the same. She had come face to face with a human warrior, and it had changed everything after the second pirate attack. Silvara Station was quiet but tense. The station's halls were filled with the smell of smoke, burnt metal, and the faint scent of injured personnel. Repairs were underway, and every alien on the station moved with a sense of urgency. Yet Alira could feel an undercurrent of unease. The pirates had not been fully defeated. They had learned, adapted, and would return. Alira walked through the corridors, observing the humans. Luke Carter and his team moved among the injured and the damaged equipment, assessing, repairing, and organizing without hesitation. They were calm, precise, and focused. Every movement showed experience, every glance indicated awareness. Alira could not stop watching them. She realized that humans did not just survive, they controlled chaos. The station commander approached her, his expression tight. "Princess, the council will want a full report. The humans, they performed beyond expectations. I have never seen anything like it." Alira nodded slowly. "I saw it myself. They are remarkable." The commander hesitated. "It is almost impossible. Humans are supposed to be fragile, small. Legends, really. We did not expect them to fight like this." Alira's eyes narrowed. Maybe the legends were wrong. She realized she was speaking aloud a thought she had barely acknowledged. Humans were not myths. They were alive, real, and capable. More than that, they were warriors in a way her people had never imagined. The next day, the station received another warning. A larger pirate fleet was approaching. Sensors showed dozens of ships, smaller than the Alliance vessels but faster, more maneuverable. Alira felt a tension she could not ignore. She had seen humans fight before, but never on this scale. She knew the station's automated defenses would help, but it would not be enough. Humans would need to act, and she would be there to see it. The humans prepared quietly. Luke moved among his team, checking weapons, supplies, and communication devices. Alira noticed how naturally the humans worked together. There were no arguments, no confusion, no hesitation. Every task was done efficiently, every problem solved immediately. She realized that humans had a rhythm, a flow, that made them effective even against overwhelming odds. When the pirates arrived, the station's alarms blared. Red lights flashed, and the hull trembled as the first wave of enemy ships fired their weapons. Alira stood on the observation deck, her heart pounding. The pirates struck quickly, aiming for weak points in the station's shields. Automated turrets opened fire, lasers cutting through the void. Yet the pirates adapted, moving faster than expected. The station shook again as explosions rocked the outer docks. Luke and his team moved immediately to the vulnerable sections. Alira followed at a safe distance, observing. She could not believe what she was seeing. Humans moved through the chaos as if it were ordinary. They climbed over damaged panels, lifted debris, and helped injured aliens to safety. When a pirate boarding craft opened on a lower dock, they were ready. Alira watched Luke take command. He gave short, precise instructions. Claire and the other humans responded instantly, covering entrances, blocking paths, and using their weapons with deadly accuracy. They moved like a single organism, every action coordinated, every attack effective. The aliens around them stared in disbelief. No one had seen humans fight like this before. The pirates boarded the station in force, expecting easy prey. Instead, they were met with resistance they had not anticipated. Luke and his team struck first, using the environment to their advantage. Panels were used as shields, cables as weapons, and heavy debris as traps. Every strike was precise, every move deadly. Alira felt her pulse quicken as she realized that humans did not fight like other species. They adapted instantly, turning anything around them into a tool for survival. A pirate lunged at Alira suddenly, its claws extended. She froze, but Luke was there in an instant, pushing her behind a support beam and striking the pirate with a heavy pipe. She could feel the force of his action, the power and precision behind every movement. She realized she was witnessing more than skill. She was witnessing instinct, discipline, and courage combined into something unstoppable. As the fight continued, the station's aliens began to falter. Many were strong, armored, and trained, yet they could not match the humans' adaptability. Luke moved from threat to threat, defending Alira, rescuing injured personnel, and countering the pirates with perfect timing. Alira followed him closely, her mind racing to understand how humans could survive against such odds. She saw Claire use a device to blind multiple pirates, then strike them while they were disoriented. Another human lifted a heavy crate, using it to block a corridor and force the pirates into a narrow path where they could be attacked more easily. Every action was simple, efficient, and devastatingly effective. Alira realized that humans did not need power or technology to dominate. They relied on intelligence, speed, and endurance. A pirate managed to grab hold of a damaged railing and swung toward Alira. She screamed instinctively, but Luke reacted instantly. He grabbed the pirate's arm, twisted it, and struck it with a metal bar. The pirate collapsed. Alira's chest heaved. She had never been this close to danger, and yet she felt an unexpected calm. She trusted the humans completely. After hours of fighting, the station's defenders managed to push the pirates back. Many pirates were injured, some fled in panic, and the rest were captured by security forces. The humans, however, were unharmed. Luke and his team moved quietly among the wreckage, checking for survivors, repairing critical systems, and making sure no threats remained. Alira followed, her eyes wide with awe. She could not stop thinking about what she had witnessed. Humans were not just strong, They were resilient. They did not panic, they did not hesitate, and they did not rely on technology alone. They relied on willpower, intelligence, and a determination to survive. She realized that the galaxy had underestimated them, and so had she. Alira approached Luke as he checked the outer doors. You saved the station," she said softly, "and you did it so calmly. How do you do it?" He looked at her, calm and composed. "We focus on what must be done. Fear is natural, but it cannot control you. You act, you adapt, and you keep moving. That is what keeps us alive." She nodded slowly. She understood now that humans were not myths. They were real and they were extraordinary. Their strength was not in size, armor, or weapons. It was in endurance, focus, and courage. The station's commander gathered Alira afterward to discuss the council's report. "Princess, the humans, they are unlike anything we have seen," he said. "Our scholars were wrong. Humans are not myths. They are capable, adaptable, and dangerous in ways we cannot fully measure. We must reconsider how we view them." Alira nodded. She had already reached that conclusion. She had seen humans fight, survive, and adapt in situations where other species would fail. She had seen their courage, their intelligence, and their resilience. She had seen the truth. Later, Alira walked among the humans quietly. She noticed how they moved naturally, checking systems, repairing damage, and preparing for any further threats. There was no pride in their actions, no boasting, only calm determination. She realized that humans were not just warriors. They were survivors, teachers of endurance and skill, and something the galaxy had never fully understood. That night, Alira stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. She thought about the humans, their strength, and what she had learned. She realized that the galaxy had been wrong about humans for centuries. They were not fragile, weak, or stories for children. They were real, capable, and extraordinary, and she had witnessed it firsthand. She knew that the humans' story was only beginning. The pirates had been only a test, a small glimpse of the chaos humans could handle. The real challenges were yet to come, and Alira wanted to be there to see it. She wanted to understand the full extent of human strength, courage, and resilience. For the first time, she felt a deep respect for humans. They had proven themselves against impossible odds, not with overwhelming power, but with intelligence, focus, and endurance. They had survived where others might have fallen, and in doing so, they had rewritten the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. Alira realized something else. Humans were not just a story of survival, they were a story of hope, courage, and determination. They were living proof that size, strength, and technology were not the only measures of power. Willpower, skill, and the ability to adapt were just as important. As she gazed at the stars, she felt a spark of excitement. The humans had shown her a glimpse of something extraordinary, something that would change the galaxy's understanding of them forever. She knew that, when the next challenge came, humans would face it with the same determination, intelligence, and courage she had witnessed today. For Alira, nothing would ever be the same. The myths about humans were gone. She had seen the truth, and it was more powerful than any story she had ever heard. She had come face to face with real human warriors, and it had changed everything. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. Alira knew that now, and she could not wait to see what would happen next. The day after the last attack, Silvara's station was quiet but tense. Repairs were still underway, and the halls smelled of smoke, burnt metal, and oil. Alira walked through the corridors, observing the aliens and humans working side by side. Every movement was precise, every action purposeful, yet her attention returned again and again to the humans. She had seen their strength, their courage, and their skill in combat, and now she understood something important. Humans were not just fighters, they were symbols of resilience. The station council had called for a meeting. Representatives from several species gathered in the main hall, their faces serious. Alira took her place at the front, sitting among the leaders. Luke and his team stood quietly nearby, calm and composed as always. The council members spoke first, reviewing the attacks, the damage, and the losses. They paused when Alira raised her hand. "I wish to speak," she said softly, yet with authority. "We have underestimated humans for too long. We have called them myths, stories, clever but weak. Today, I will speak the truth. Humans are strong, brave, and capable beyond what we imagined. They have saved this station, protected countless lives, and fought with courage that matches any species in the galaxy." Murmurs ran through the council. Some faces showed disbelief. Others looked uneasy, as if they were hearing something they could not fully understand. Alira continued, "The human strength is not in size or armor or technology. It is in their will, their intelligence, and their ability to survive against impossible odds. I have seen it myself. We must recognize their true value. Humans are not stories or myths, they are real and they deserve respect." She turned slightly to look at Luke. His expression was calm, unreadable, yet she could see a faint spark of acknowledgement in his eyes. The council members exchanged looks, some whispering to each other. Alira could feel the weight of history shifting. The galaxy had long ignored humans, dismissed them, and now the truth could not be hidden. After the council, Alira walked with Luke through the station. She wanted to see him as more than a warrior. She wanted to understand humans better. "How do you remain so calm?" she asked, her voice soft. "After everything, the attacks, the danger, how do you keep going?" He looked at her, his eyes steady. "We focus on what must be done. Fear is natural, but it cannot control you. We act, we adapt, we survive. That is all." Alira thought about it. It was simple yet profound. She had spent her life learning strategy, diplomacy, and battle tactics. Yet humans had shown her something different. Survival was not just about skill. It was about endurance, courage, and intelligence under pressure. Humans combined all of it naturally. That evening, Alira visited the station's training area. The humans were already there, preparing for drills, checking weapons, and moving efficiently. She watched them closely. Luke lifted a heavy panel, swung it like a lever, and tested its weight. Claire practiced with a small weapon, moving quickly and precisely. Every human was calm, focused, and ready. Alira realized that humans did not need to show off. They did not boast or exaggerate. Their skill was quiet, simple, and deadly effective. She began to understand why the galaxy had underestimated them. Humans were not flashy, but they were persistent, clever, and unyielding. They survived because they had to, and that made them stronger than most species realized. As days passed, Alira continued to observe humans at work. She saw them repairing the station, training and preparing for any future threat. They worked together seamlessly, anticipating each other's moves, supporting each other without words. She realized that humans were more than fighters. They were leaders, teachers, and examples of discipline. The aliens on the station began to notice it too. Commanders who had doubted humans before now watched them closely. Soldiers who had laughed at the humans' size and weapons now followed their lead. It was clear that humans had earned respect not by claiming it, but by showing it in action. One day, Alira accompanied Luke to the station's outer deck, overlooking the void of space. A small fleet of neutral alien ships passed by, curious about the humans' presence. Alira spoke quietly, almost to herself. "The galaxy will never see humans the same way again," she said. "You have changed everything, not with words but with action." Luke glanced at her. "We did what was needed. That is all. The rest will follow naturally." Alira smiled faintly. She understood. Humans did not seek glory or recognition. They acted, and the consequences of their actions spoke for themselves. She felt a deep respect and a sense of awe. Humans had rewritten what she thought she knew about strength and courage. The council held another meeting, this time focused on strategy and defense. Alira spoke first. She praised the humans publicly, recounting their actions during the attacks. She highlighted their courage, skill, and quick thinking. The council listened, some skeptically at first, then with growing acknowledgement. Aliens who had once dismissed humans as fragile now began to see them as a serious force. After her speech, Alira stood quietly near Luke. She could feel the shift in the room. Humans were no longer underestimated. Their story was being rewritten, not as a tale, but as truth. She realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would soon understand what humans were capable of. In the following days, Alira spent time learning from the humans. She watched how they planned, how they trained, and how they approached problems. She realized that their greatest strength was not in weapons or size, but in thinking, adapting, and enduring. They faced danger with calm determination, and that made them nearly unstoppable. One evening, as Alira walked through the station's central hub, she noticed a young alien soldier struggling to repair a damaged console. A human approached quietly, assessed the problem, and showed the alien the correct steps. The repair was completed quickly and efficiently. Alira watched, impressed. Humans did not just fight, they taught, they helped, they led by example. She approached Luke later, curiosity shining in her eyes. "You do not just fight. You teach, you guide, you help. It is not just strength, it is wisdom." He nodded slowly. "Survival is more than strength. It is knowledge, teamwork, and understanding what is needed. Humans survive because we use all of it together." Alira felt a sense of clarity. Humans were extraordinary, not because they were the strongest in size or weaponry, but because they were complete in a way few species understood. Endurance, intelligence, courage, teamwork. They combined all of it, and it made them unpredictable, powerful, and respected. The days passed and the station grew more secure. The humans remained vigilant, ready for any threat. Alira watched them closely, learning, observing, and reflecting. She realized that the galaxy's perception of humans had changed forever. Myths had become reality, stories had become truth, and humans were no longer underestimated. Finally, the council called for a celebration of survival and defense. Aliens and humans gathered together, sharing food, stories, and relief that the station had survived. Alira stood on a platform, addressing the crowd. "Today, we honor all those who defended this station. But we must also honor those we underestimated, humans," she said. "For too long, the galaxy has thought of humans as myths, stories, clever but fragile. Today, we see the truth. Humans are strong, brave, and capable. They have saved this station, protected lives, and shown us what courage truly means. We must remember this, respect this, and learn from it." The crowd erupted in applause. Humans stood quietly, their calm presence unchanged, but their actions had spoken louder than words. Alira looked at Luke, seeing him not just as a soldier, but as a symbol of everything humans represented: courage, endurance, and intelligence. Later, as the station settled into calm, Alira walked with Luke to the observation deck. She looked at the stars, her mind full of thoughts. "You have changed everything," she said softly. "The galaxy will never forget what humans can do." Luke nodded. "We did what was needed. The rest will follow naturally." Alira smiled faintly. She understood. Humans did not seek recognition, but their actions left a lasting impact. The galaxy would see them as they truly were: strong, resilient, and extraordinary. That night, Alira stood alone on the observation deck, thinking about what she had witnessed. Humans had arrived as small, underestimated creatures, myths of a fragile species. Now they were recognized as real, living proof of courage, intelligence, and survival. She realized that humans had rewritten history without even trying, showing the galaxy a new truth about strength. She knew that from this day forward, humans would no longer be ignored, dismissed, or underestimated. The galaxy had learned, through observation and experience, that humans were more than stories, they were reality. And somewhere deep inside, Alira felt a sense of hope. Humans had survived, humans had fought, and humans had changed the galaxy forever. She knew that their story was only beginning, and that one day the galaxy would see the full extent of human strength. For Alira, for the station, and for the galaxy, nothing would ever be the same. The myths had been replaced by truth. Humans had proven themselves, and the galaxy would never forget. As she looked at the stars, she whispered quietly, almost to herself, "Humans, you are more than anyone believed, and now the universe will know it too."